people did not know when they started, and people still to this day don't know the details and how kind of cruel it was for them to basically unroll this product that has no purpose except for to get you hooked and to kill you.
Welcome to the Tip the Skills podcast, where we discuss running and growing your law firm. I'm your host, Maria Monroy, president and co-founder of LawRank. Today, I am joined by Charles Scott from Kelley, Uustal, and we talked about cigarettes, actually, and suing tobacco companies, which I had no idea that you could still do. And did you guys know that if you smoke, you have a 75% chance of getting sick from smoking? Or something like that. He explains it better. We talked about having patience when dealing with clients, and
Joe smoking when he was 11.
Oh yeah, we called Joe Volta.
How getting to know your clients is important to winning your case.
There you go. Charles Scott, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us.
Welcome. I'm welcoming you.
Oh, to your office?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
I love how the AC is broken.
Yes. But only in the courtroom.
Yeah, very weird.
Yeah, it is.
I think you guys did it on purpose.
I don't know. To put the pressure on you. I don't feel I don't feel the pressure as much.
I don't feel pressure either.
Okay, good. So we'll be in good shape.
I'll give John shit when he gets here.
You absolutely should.
Yeah, I'm going to.
I will also give him shit.
Perfect. I was told you were really funny, so I'm just like ready to laugh.
All right.
I can't wait. Very excited about it.
All right, we'll see.
All right, tell us what firm you work at, what your title is, and then we'll go from there.
I am a partner here at the legendary Kelley Uustal trial attorneys firm. I am the head of national tobacco litigation. And so I run our national tobacco department.
I didn't know that people were still suing tobacco companies. Is that like ignorant?
Don't get me started. No, that's not ignorant at all. I get that all the time. I was in St. Pete a couple weeks ago, and I had a long Uber drive that was like 40 minutes, and I spent the 40 minutes of that Uber drive talking to the Uber about the fact that you still can sue tobacco companies.
Oh, you got a 1-star.
Yeah, so no way. I even convinced him to quit smoking. I feel like I should have got a 5-star for that.
I hope you did.
Yeah, no, it was a good conversation, but I get that all the time. So most people don't realize that, and that's fine. It works out.
Okay, so tell me, like, when and how are you suing tobacco companies?
When, always.
Okay.
How is really based off of when people get sick. So here in Florida, we had what was called the Engel progeny cases. So in 2007, there was a huge class action lawsuit. Okay. Howard Engel was the guy's name. He was a doctor and he was the class leader. The Supreme Court here decided to decertify the class. So that allowed for individual smokers to file those lawsuits individually. And the firm that I came into at that time happened to have a shit ton of these tobacco cases, and I just fell into it. When I was interning, one of the first or second trials that I interned on was a tobacco trial. And like most people, cigarettes have impacted my life just like, most of Americans, most people anywhere in the world, quite frankly. So my grandmother had lung cancer. My grandfather, World War II vet, COPD, coronary heart disease, longtime smokers, obviously, since their childhood. So these cases are for people who, in Engel here in Florida, they had to be a certain age or had to qualify based off of when they had their illnesses, when they were diagnosed with their illnesses. And that's what qualified them to be a part of the class. And so the firm that I worked for had a bunch of these cases. It kind of sparked my interest. Okay. And
is that the only way you can sue?
What do you mean?
Tobacco companies. It's if they're, I assume these are like cases that are like people smoked back in the day.
Sure. But now we have cases of people who smoke today or who's more recently.
But how? Like, isn't it like such a known thing? Like, I actually was going through the airport the other day, and I don't remember where this was, but they literally had, this was actually, I do remember, this was in Cabo. So this was in Mexico.
International.
Yeah, but they had the advertising, and I think it was like maybe Camel or whatever, I don't know what it was, but it was literally like so blunt. It was like the actual advertising was like talking about how tobacco causes cancer, death, or something like that. And it was like almost like they were making fun. It was really odd.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I have. I've seen it in Mexico actually as well. And the warnings and the packages that they use in other countries are much more gruesome
Aggressive.
and
Yeah.
aggressive than what they do here.
Same for food. I don't know if you've
Absolutely.
seen that, because we lived in Mexico for a while recently, and like if you looked at like even like a granola bar, it would be like excessive calories,
Yes.
excessive sugar. And I'm like, I cannot believe
Yes.
that Mexico does this.
Yes.
But the US,
Yes.
where we feel so much safer, doesn't.
Yes. Well, I'm not going to get into why that is the case, because, but I will say this, it's twofold. Number one, the warnings are inadequate here in America. Okay. Majority of places that you go now that have some sort of warnings, like actually at the place of purchase,
Mm-hmm.
those are required or actually ordered by a federal court.
Okay.
So now if you go to RJ Reynolds' website or if you go to Philip Morris' website, there's a list of things that they are required by the federal court to have to say. One of them is that they intentionally manipulated cigarettes to make them more addictive. Okay. Another one is to say that majority of people who smoke cigarettes are going to get some sort of terminal illness or likely die from that. These are all the things nowadays that people did not know when they started, and people still to this day don't know the details and how kind of cruel it was for them to basically unroll this product that has no purpose except for to get you hooked and to kill you. We do cases here all the time for products that, you know, have some sort of fault. If you have a tire case and there's a bad tire, okay, that's fine. There's a bad tire. You got to be held accountable for that. But at least the tire has a purpose, right? We need that tire to get from point A to point B.
Right.
Mass production of cigarettes, there is no purpose. It was literally a tool that sold to sell nicotine to people, which is what gets you addicted. And long term, what's going to happen is you're going to get a terminal illness and you're going to likely fall victim to that. That's it. And so what people think that they know about cigarettes is they could be potentially dangerous. They could cause impacts with women who are pregnant, et cetera, et cetera. What people don't know is that cigarette is literally a drug device. It's literally the best, you know, tool for people to get nicotine, which is one of the most highly addictive drugs that we have here on Earth. And so why are you doing that? What's the purpose of that? Now, when you go back deeper into the layers, when you kind of unpack the layers of the tobacco industry historically, it goes to show that, okay, well, we knew that this product was addictive. We knew that it was bad. So what do? We doubled down. We went overseas. We did studies to figure out how we can manipulate the product to make it more addictive. We have charts that we use in trial that show that in 1900, there was literally no cases of lung cancer. Lung cancer was not an illness that they had to deal with at that time. With the mass production of cigarettes, as the sale of cigarettes increased, the number of cases of lung cancer increased simultaneously. And now lung cancer is literally the most diagnosed cancer that we have in America.
Really?
Yes. That's something else people have no idea about.
And is it always smokers?
Most of the time. Obviously, there's going to be some people who maybe were exposed to asbestos. I have a buddy, I went to undergrad at University of Kentucky. I have a buddy who does coal miner cases. So there's going to be people probably who may get lung cancer as a result of that. But the reality is direct correlation with the mass production and sale of what we now know of today as cigarettes, which is much different from going out, getting a tobacco leaf, breaking it up, rolling it up and smoking it, right? There's carcinogens, there's ammonias, there's all these different chemicals that are actually put into the cigarette to make it more inhalable, to make it easier for people to smoke.
So a very, very, very long time ago, I went to that exhibit. Forget what it was called, but it showed you like what bodies look like under the skin.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Bodies exhibit.
It was called the Bodies Exhibit? Okay. This was so long ago, but they had they showed you a lung of a smoker.
Yes.
And they had a way to preserve the body. So basically, they were showing you dead bodies, but they were preserved. So you could actually...
You voluntarily went to go see
Yeah,
this?
I did. And I'm surprised now that I'm even saying it. This was I'm talking oh my God, I'm going to age myself 14 years ago, something crazy.
All right. So when you're in high school.
No, thank you though. I'll take it. So they showed you a lung of a smoker and a lung of a non-smoker. And then they had a huge thing, this clear container, and people would just dump their cigarette packs because it was the difference was psycho.
And then on the drive home,
they'd stop and buy.
They stop and get another pack of cigarettes because they're addicted.
But here's the thing. I guess where I'm a little bit shocked is so are you saying that anybody that has lung cancer that smoked cigarettes has a case?
I wouldn't say, I mean, look, I would look at it. Okay.
And then I have another.
Anyone who has lung cancer who smoked cigarettes for a long time, I will look at your case to see what to see what's there.
I have a dumb question.
There's no such thing.
Is it federal law or state law?
State. Well, we've done cases in both. Okay. Right now our focus is in state. So we're in we started down here in Florida with the Engel progeny cases, like I started off talking about. And then now we're in other states as well.
But wouldn't the tobacco company just be well, people know the risk. It's 2025. Wouldn't it be such an easy argument for them to be hey, didn't you know the risk? It's a known thing.
I would arguably say that the tobacco companies created that narrative. Okay. And so, but you got to understand, for the Engel progeny cases that we did here in Florida, the majority of our clients were people who started smoking prior to the Surgeon General's report and prior to there ever being a warning label on the pack of cigarettes.
Okay.
Okay. So that was the initial kind of hurdle to get past. When they were forced to put the warning labels on the packs of cigarettes, obviously they fought tooth and nail to determine what that warning would say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How maybe vague or confusing that it could be. The warning labels, to go back to your point about what you saw in the airport in Mexico, the warning labels on the packages of cigarettes today, there's a rotating in America, are the same warning labels that have been there since 1985. Okay. So how effective have those been? Right. So that I think is a narrative or an argument that was created at the outset, not just to get people to actually assume the risk, but in reality to be able to use to help them defend their cases.
Ah, got it.
Now, let me go another step. Having a general knowledge that cigarettes are bad for you is not the same thing as knowing that 75% of people who smoke every day are going to have a terminal illness that they will likely die from. If someone told you that if you got on 95 to come to this office today, that you had a 75% chance that you were going to get a car accident, you probably wouldn't have drove here.
I kind of felt like I had a 75% chance driving here.
It's higher than most places. Your chance is higher than most places.
I don't want to jinx it over here.
Yes, let's not do that.
On wood,
yes, please. But you get my point.
Of course, yeah, no. And don't get me wrong, every time I jump on the freeway, I think about it. But I think that's because I am highly anxious and because I work with personal injury lawyers. But yeah, of course, if a plane, right? I know that the chances are so slim. Otherwise, there's no way in hell you'd get me on that plane.
There you go. Yeah. So you can't, number one, you can't blame people for what they don't know. And by minimizing what you think the harm is that people understand, you're setting up this whole idea that, well, everybody knows cigarettes are bad, but you don't know the details.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a 75%.
No.
I thought it was 5 or 10.
Okay.
Percent. Okay,
You're
but
proving my
do you
point.
know Joe Volta?
Joe Volta? No.
He's a client of ours.
Okay.
Out of
Sorry, Joe.
He smokes. I'm going to send this to him. I always tell him he needs to.
And tell him to call me.
I'm going to tell him. Will you scare him for me?
Look.
I'm going to put you in a text thread right after this.
Okay, that's fine.
Just to scare him.
Look, let me tell you this. The other reason why these cases are so important, okay, is because the tobacco industry knew that their customers were going to get sick and die. And so what they had to do is they had to focus their intention and their marketing, which you know about, and their advertising on the next generation of smokers. So when you come out with a campaign like Joe Camel, right, a cartoon, when you come out with a campaign like Marlboro Man, right, when you come out with something like Virginia Slims, you come a long way, baby, right? These are campaigns that are directly targeted, Newport's Alive with Pleasure, to kids. And their studies show that the younger someone starts smoking, the less likely it is for them to ever quit. That's how it works. You don't know Joe, God bless you, Joe, all right? He didn't start smoking, I guarantee, at 25. No one does that, right? You start at 10, 11,
I mean, let's
12.
find out. Let's
find out. Let's do it. Let's put him on the spot.
See.
Let's put him on the spot.
You picked up. Hold on. I'm going to put you on speaker. I'm recording a podcast right now and I have a question for you.
Okay. Maybe I can help you.
At what age did you start smoking cigarettes?
So my first cigarette when I was in 4th grade. Cousins got me to do it on a cruise. My cousins were 10 and 7 years older than me. So I was like 8, I was in 4th grade. So how old were you in 4th grade? I was like 10 or 11. So they'd have been like 20 and 21.
The fuck? Thank you for...
That's the first time I smoked. But then I started smoking. I even smoked in like middle school. We thought it was cool. We would go back and like buy cigarettes from like bars or like cigarette machines where you put the quarters in and pull them out.
I thought it was cool.
So probably like middle school, but I didn't inhale. I just thought if you blew the smoke out of your nose, that meant you were inhaling, but that's obviously not true. And then let's see. I feel like full time for sure, probably like freshman year of high school.
That's crazy. Are you still smoking?
Ride bike.
Okay,
Ride bike. We would ride bike to the bars, and they had like a double door. Like you went in one door, and the cigarette machine was there, and then you had to go in another door to get into the bar. So like they wouldn't see you. And it was before they put like those buzzers behind the bar to prevent people from buying cigarettes underage. So you could just roll in there and put the quarters and dollars in and so buy cigarettes. Or they had them at the pool hall. I go to the pool hall a lot, and I buy like Kools because I thought it was cool. Those Kools with the KOOL is how they spelled it.
And how old are you now? 39. Okay.
40 in October.
I'm a month older than you, 2 months older than you. Okay. Well, thank you. This will make the podcast episode, and then I'm going to connect you with Charles after so he can tell you how you have a 75% chance of dying from smoking.
Yeah, you can tell Charles I said, screw that, and thanks for the obvious advice. I like Charles. I don't know who he is, but good for him. I appreciate the unsolicited health advice.
You would like Charles, actually. He's cool.
And I would never give you unsolicited health advice.
I would, though. I will give you unsolicited health advice. Did you know that's 75% chance of getting lung cancer?
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? But I enjoy it. I have no other vice. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I smoke cigarettes and crush caffeine. I mean, can I have some kind of vice?
You're breaking Charles' heart. He's very worried about you.
No, I'm not Joe. I don't even know you, but
Joe knows I'm ball busting.
Wow, that's congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. I got my 15-year clean day anniversary in like 2 weeks, June 8th.
Wow, that's amazing.
15 years. So yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Well,
we'll let you get back to smoking.
I've already smoked like 5 or 6 of that. I played golf this morning, so I'm already like 5 or 6 deep.
I can't wait to send you this episode.
I'll listen to it.
I know you will. I'll talk to you later. Thank you for taking my call. Bye. Wow. I didn't know that. I need to start talking to my kids now about this shit.
Yeah.
But what about vaping?
Vaping's worse. Well, Look, let me.
Are you
before we-
suing them too?
Let's not switch to vaping because that's what everybody naturally wants to do.
What's wrong with switching to vaping?
It's nothing wrong with it, but they're two different. They're same field, but two different lanes.
Okay.
Okay.
Fine. Let's not switch.
Okay.
You proved your point.
Okay. Did I? What point was I trying to prove?
People start smoking really early. I didn't know that.
Absolutely.
That's news to me. I know that if you start drinking alcohol early, like the earlier you try it, the more likely you are to be a drinker and the higher chances you have of becoming an alcoholic. I knew that.
Yeah. Let me say this, and this is not to pick on Joe because now because you set me up to make it feel like I was picking on him, and I was not, Joe. Just so you know,
he's super cool.
Okay.
He knows I'm fucking with him.
The reality is that it's easy to say and assume that you know about the obvious and how dangerous it is, etc. Okay. The reality is he's highly addicted. And that's what everyone is.
Because he quit for a while.
No, he didn't. He attempted to quit for a while and then he relapsed, which means that you didn't really quit.
He took a break.
Okay. So now support him in his sobriety, right? I have clients who also had other addictions, right? And in one of the cases that I remember very clearly, a gentleman who was addicted to alcohol and crack cocaine for 20 years. Okay, now I'm suing a tobacco company for COPD for him smoking cigarettes, and he smoked crack cocaine for 20 years. But when we started talking on his case, what I found out was, well, while you were in rehab, you couldn't smoke crack cocaine, you couldn't drink alcohol, but what could you do? Well, I could smoke cigarettes. By the end of his deposition, he was telling us that it was more difficult for him to quit cigarettes than it was for him to quit crack cocaine.
That's crazy.
And that's what the evidence shows. So, one thing that I don't do is what you just did. I don't give unsolicited health advice. I don't try to. People think that because I sue tobacco companies, their assumption is that I'm always trying to get people to quit smoking cigarettes.
Do you smoke cigarettes?
Absolutely not.
I'm kidding.
But fortunately for me, one of my youngest childhood memories was we were going on a trip. My mom hates when I tell this story, but so we're going on a trip and we're kind of caravanning where my grandparents are in the car in front of us, and we pull off the exit, and my mom goes, "If she's going in there to get a goddamn cigarette, I'm going to strangle her." Right? She's talking about my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
It had such an impact on me, and they were constantly gearing us toward that, like you're about to start doing that with your daughters, that I never smoked. And I was always an advocate against it. Okay. However, when my mom came to our first tobacco trial, by the end of opening statements, she was in tears. And I'm turning back like, I thought I did a good job. Like, what, what happened here? What, And she goes to me, she says, all of these years, I blamed your grandmother for not quitting smoking. All of these years, to her death, I blamed her. And sitting here just in these first couple hours, I realized it wasn't her fault. She was a target. They knew exactly what they were doing. They designed it perfectly, and they advertised. If you watch Mad Men, cigarette companies created modern day advertising as we know it. Bud Light doesn't spend $30 million for a 30-second Super Bowl commercial because they just like throwing away $30 million, right? They make that in the first 5 minutes of halftime.
Totally.
It works.
I get it.
So that's it. Now,
yes.
We can conclude with this because this is very important.
Yes.
Okay. Even though you live in Mexico now.
No, I live here.
Okay.
Well, I mean, Miami is basically Mexico.
More Cuba than Mexico, but yes.
Same thing. I'm Mexican. I am Mexican for the record.
Make that clear. All right. Make sure that's clear for the record, Your Honor. With all those cases of lung cancer and COPD and heart disease and esophageal cancer and laryngeal cancer and bladder cancer and all these things that are directly correlated with long-term cigarette addiction.
So it's not even just lung cancer.
Not even close. Okay, not even close. In the Engel progeny cases, I think we had 8 different diseases that would allow you to qualify. Okay?
Well, yeah, because you're getting all those toxins into your body.
There you go. Now, when the Surgeon General report came out, when advertisements got pulled off of television, right, when they had to change the game a little bit, when the government forced them to change the game, there was a certain demographic of the country who stopped smoking, right? Mostly higher socioeconomic status people.
Yep.
Okay. So now you have 3 times as many people who make less than $30,000 a year smoke cigarettes every day. Now, when that person gets lung cancer or bladder cancer or laryngeal cancer, who do you think's paying for their medical bills?
The government?
Which means
We're paying for it?
the taxpayer. If you are a multi-billion-dollar company and you make money off death, no other purpose, the least you could fucking do is pay the people's medical bills. The least you can do. Our healthcare system is so fucked up. And a large portion of that goes back to the foods, the cigarettes, the things that we actually consume that cause this overconsumption and overfilling of hospitals. And then it's the Medicare and the Medicaid that pays for it.
Absolutely.
So the least they could do.
I agree. Now,
All right.
you told me.
That didn't take long.
No. We'll cut half of it.
Thanks, Joe.
Now, you told me that you're really great with clients
Yes.
and that patience is your superpower, which is like I'm just not patient at all.
Yes.
Yes? Like, I'm not patient at all?
No,
You
I
can
don't know
tell that
that.
already?
I mean, no, I
Damn.
can't tell that. But
Okay,
so I think part of the reason that I got good at this specifically is because I can be empathetic with the clients. So because I actually dealt with watching what my mom went through with her parents, literally as it related to cigarettes, it helps me better understand who I'm dealing with. And the only way that you're really going to be successful in any of your cases, I tell my clients all the time before we're doing their depositions, I say, look, what you say is important. Okay. You started smoking at 11 years old, 4th grade, right? You could ride your bike to the bar where they had a separate door that you could walk into because that's where the vending machine was, that you could put a quarter in and get a cigarette, but you couldn't go into the bar. They ID you to go into the bar, but you could get out the vending machine. Okay.
That's crazy.
What you say is important, right? And he's only 40, right?
No, not even. He's not even 40.
Exactly my point. So what you say is important, but how you say it is just as important. There's no jury in the world that has awarded millions of dollars to any client that they didn't like or that they didn't believe, right? And so it's important for me to get to know who these people are. Who are you? What's your story? Why is it that the Marlboro Man was so cool to you in the 4th grade that you now decided to go smoke the cigarettes? Why is it that once you got to middle school, you realized, oh, this is the coolest thing that I could do? And so now you're seeking it out. The gentleman I literally just got off the phone with before I came down here said every day you had to get a note. Your parents could write a note to the school that allowed you to smoke.
What? What year was this?
He's older, so this was probably in the 60s. Okay. Parents could write a note
That's crazy.
that allows you to smoke in school. All right. He says every day, as soon as my foot hit the ground off that bus, I'd be lighting up a cigarette because I wanted everybody to see how cool I was.
Oh,
That was it.
that's just so tough because they're so little. And they want to so badly be cool.
This is why I sue tobacco companies.
Where does patience come in, though?
Patience comes in with understanding that your clients are all suffering from terminal illnesses. And the person who they were before their diagnosis is not necessarily the person that they still are today. I had a gentleman, God rest his soul, who had a very bad situation with his he had oral cavity cancer. And back in the 90s, when he was getting treatment for it, they did radiation. The radiation wasn't as good then as it is now, obviously. He had to get double radiation. It caused necrosis in his jaw, which sounds like you know what that means, which is basically his jaw started to deteriorate. At one point in time, they tried to put in a titanium jaw replacement for him that his body ended up rejecting, and it like actually started kicking back outside of his face. The pictures are gnarly. Lost a bunch of teeth, like really bad situation. Very hard to understand. He lost a piece of his tongue. Eating out of a feeding tube. Very difficult life experience at that point compared to when he was, obviously before he was diagnosed. He's pissy all the time. He's gonna be pissed off. He's gonna be
pissed off.
You know what I mean?
I mean, anybody would be pissed off.
He's gonna be short of patience. The more you start talking to me about your case, and I start unpacking the fact that you used to get them from the vending machine too, it makes you more pissed off. You're pissed off at the company, right? So I have to understand how to sit back, let them get that off, right? Sometimes I'm the only person who's going to have a 30-minute to an hour-long conversation with them that whole day, And so sometimes they just want to get it off. And so you got to sit back. When you sit back and you're patient in those conversations, that's when the gold happens. That's when you start finding out about them riding their bikes to go get it, right? Or about the billboard that they remember down the street with lips on it that blew smoke out of it, right? So that's where that comes from. So that's number one. Number two, the patience comes from, unfortunately, a lot of my clients are dealing with terminal illnesses. There's a other side of my clients that have lost their mother or their father or their husband or their wife, right? I got a guy right now, wife passed, 3 minor kids.
Oh.
Okay. Now, how do you deal with that? Right? How do you deal with the fact that they're going through financial issues, and when they run into a place where they can't pay their bill, the first thing that they think about is their lawsuit. I'm like their money, but I'm not really. But in their mind, I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now I got to deal with that. Okay, go ahead, get it off. I understand. I'll play therapist today. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean we're going to change. That's going to change the status of the case. We can decide what route that you want to go with it, but we got to take our time. Okay. The child who lost their parent, and the lawsuit's been going on for 2 years. Sometimes people would think it's been going on for 2 years. Now it's finally coming to an end. Thank God. Let me just get it over with. I'll sign whatever you need me to sign. Let me get it over with. The reality is some people are holding on to that as like their last thing to clinch on after losing their mother. And it's harder for them to end the lawsuit than it even was for them to begin it, because it kind of gives them like this weird sense of purpose and this connection to the loved one that they lost. And it requires a lot of patience.
Yeah. Maybe I'm glad I wanted to be a lawyer. Now you're making me think I wouldn't have been suited for it.
You wouldn't have or would have?
Wouldn't have, but I'm kidding.
Well, it depends. It depends.
The typical lawyer answer.
That is the best lawyer answer. Everyone's approach to things are different, and just because people take a different approach doesn't mean that they can't be successful.
No, I know. I'm totally
yes, and that is a hard thing for me to understand sometimes, because you get used to doing everything yourself, and now you got to delegate, you got to trust, So
delegating's tough.
It is.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely.
I learned a lot, actually.
Good. I'm glad that you did. I didn't know this worked out.
Yeah. You didn't know what?
That we were going to talk about cigarettes.
What did you think we were going to talk about?
I had no idea. They told me it was a casual conversation.
A casual? Did it feel casual?
It felt very casual. Yeah. We made phone calls and everything. Right.
I know, right? Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Likewise. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you so much to Charles for everything he shared with us today. If you found this story valuable, please share it with someone you want to see succeed. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and leave a 5-star review. It goes a long way to help others discover the show.